Live from Atlanta, 11 Alive Weekend Morning starts now.
Good morning. It is Saturday, February 1st. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Christy Etheridge. We have a lot coming up this hour. A killer confesses to beating a toddler to death, all for eating a cupcake. The sentence the judge handed down and what's next in the case. And a young couple is facing several charges in the murder of a Clark Atlanta University student, the punishment that they could now face. And the deadly and quickly spreading coronavirus has hundreds stranded overseas this morning, how the travel industry and the White House are responding. We will get to all of those stories in just a moment. But first, major breaking news out of Gwinnett County right now, where a car accident has created an inferno on the interstate. Look at this fire raging. This is on I-85 northbound, right between Jimmy Carter Boulevard and the Pleasantdale Road exit. Right now, the preliminary information shows that it was a tractor trailer and two cars that were involved. Gwinnett police say this fire is the result of a traffic accident. You can see traffic has been moved to a complete halt. I-85 northbound completely shut down between Pleasantdale and Jimmy Carter. Your detours right now are Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, Highway 29, and Buford Highway. So avoid that area until they can get it cleaned up. We'll keep you updated throughout the show this morning. Now let's get a check of our weather. It is chilly outside, Wes, and it looks like the rain is on the way.
Yeah, chilly.
Let's take another look at that breaking news out of Gwinnett County. This is I-85. You can see in both directions, lanes have been shut down. The entire interstate brought to a halt because of this car fire on I-85, the northbound side, right between Pleasantdale Road and Jimmy Carter Boulevard. We're told at this point it involved a tractor trailer plus two other vehicles. One of them may be overturned. Police and the fire department, you can see them there on scene working to contain this fire, but lots of thick black smoke in the area pluming up. This is a live look right now at the interstate. No word right now when they're going to reopen lanes. You can tell by the size of the fire. It may take a few moments, but we'll keep updating you throughout the show. No word on any injuries at this point, but we're hoping everyone was okay. All right, Wes, let's take a look at the weather. It is a little chilly out this morning, but it looks like we've got some rain on the way.
Rain's on the way. It's
From Atlanta, 11 Alive Weekend Morning starts now.
We have been following a massive fire on I-85 northbound all throughout the show this morning. This is a look at that fire right there at I-85 northbound, right in between Pleasantdale Road and Jimmy Carter Boulevard. We know right now that a tractor trailer and two other vehicles were involved in this crash, and Gwinnett police say this fire is the result of a traffic accident. Now, the scene that we're looking at has changed from the time we first started reporting this. When you first saw this about a half hour ago, flames were wild and this fire was huge. First responders there on scene have so far been able to contain the fire, and now there is just thick black smoke pluming up. But you can see, based on this live look here, both sides of the interstate have been brought to a halt. That interstate I-85 in both directions is shut down. So right now, it's best to avoid the area completely, but your detours are Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, Highway 29, and Buford Highway. Now, we've had a crew trying to get to that scene all morning long, and it looks like our reporter, Nick Sturdivant, is there live on the scene. Nick, what are you seeing? Can you see the flames from where you are? All right, it looks like we had some technical difficulties. We'll try and get back to him later on in the show. At this point, we don't have any word on any injuries, but you could see first responders are there right now trying to contain that. We'll follow it throughout the rest of the show. Let's check in now with Wes Peary in the Weather Center. He is going to give us a quick update of the forecast. Wes, it looks chilly, but some rain might be coming.
Christy.
Let's go back out to Gwinnett County right now, where a massive tractor trailer fire has shut down both sides of the interstate. We're told it involved a tractor trailer and two cars. And now our reporter, Nick Sturdivant, has made his way live to the scene. Nick, what can you see from where you are?
Carter Boulevard. Behind me, you see that thick black smoke, and you can see that plume of smoke from miles away. We noticed it from 5 miles away, actually, on Shamley Tucker exit. And the fire, again, as you mentioned, the result of an accident involving a tractor trailer and 2 other vehicles, a tractor trailer and another vehicle overturned, and the southbound lane and northbound lanes are now shut down. We have a photographer that's closer to the scene than we are, and he was telling us that some people have already abandoned their vehicles and their people. Can we pan to the right? You can see this is the northbound lane here near Jimmy Carter Boulevard. It's at a standstill. People are just outside hanging out in front of their car on the phone. Some people at one point when we got here on top of their cars to get a better view. And from our distance, we can see that thick black smoke, some flames. And again, the northbound, southbound lanes are shut down. Talking to, before we got here, talking to folks in the newsroom, I don't think we've seen anything quite like this at all. Again, emergency responders are asking people to avoid this area. The best alternate route, from what we're told, is Buford Highway. But again, Kristen, we're going to try to inch closer to the scene, and we're going to try to gather as much information as we can on what exactly happened and what caused this basically inferno here on I-85.
This is pretty stunning video, and what's interesting, Nick, you're on the opposite side from where our traffic camera is, so from your direction, you can actually see the flames better, whereas from the other side, looking back at it, we could really only see the smoke. So from what you're seeing, it looks like that fire is still raging pretty strongly. Is that correct from what you can see?
Yes, you could definitely see the flames, and again, that thick black smoke is the one thing that really pops out, and one thing that we noticed, and the reason why we pulled over on this side of the road, and this is sort of an access road here, closest to the southbound lane, and again, a photographer that is a little bit closer to the scene told us that people have already abandoned their vehicles. Police have told folks to make sure to watch where they step, especially where the manholes are. But again, this is something that we are going to continue to follow up on and work to get more information. And again, people are here just trying to figure out what happened. I saw a car pass through this access road, and somebody had their window down, and they said simply, wow. And again, as you see this, wow.
Yeah, and you're hoping all of those people there who are stuck in the traffic have full gas tanks, because they've been sitting there for at least an hour at this point. Nick, one more question for you. Can you see, it doesn't look like it from where we can see, but is there any way that those cars have any kind of access point to leave the interstate or to turn around, or does it look like they're pretty boxed in at this point?
It looks like they'll box in again, and as I mentioned, people are just leaving their cars, from what we're told from a photographer closest to the scene. Again, people are just hanging out right now. It doesn't seem like from where we are, they are in any danger. But again, I don't see any way for people to leave their box in. Some emergency crews are trying to work their way to the scene, or are sort of weaving their way whatever space they can find through this traffic. But for right now, people are hanging out on, especially the northbound lane, and they're here. And we don't know how long they're going to be here. We don't know how long the highway is going to be shut down.
Yeah, it's already been at least an hour at this point. Nick, we're still trying to learn information about injuries. Have you seen any ambulances coming to or from the scene of the accident?
I have not. Again, we've got here a few minutes ago. We literally set up, and just to describe our setup, we are at an elevated level right now. We're actually on top of the live truck, which is why we're able to get this great view of this fire. But right now we have not seen any ambulances, anything to suggest that there have been any injuries. And so far we're working to gather more information on if anyone was hurt from this accident. Okay,
we are too. Thanks for your reporting live from the scene there, Nick Sturdivant in Gwinnett County. Again, that crash right between Pleasantdale Road, Jimmy Carter Boulevard, and it looks like that fire is still raging pretty strong. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to you later on in the show. Thanks a lot, Nick. We're going to take you back out to Gwinnett County as we continue to follow this massive car fire on I-85, an inferno on the interstate that has shut down I-85 in both directions. This is a live look from our traffic camera. You can see on the left side of your screen that black smoke that is pummeling up into the air. That is where the crash happened. We're told it was a tractor trailer and 2 vehicles. Now from this side, you can't see the flames, but from where our reporter Nick Sturdivant is, he made his way to the scene, got there just a few moments ago, says you can actually see the flames. And Nick, you say people who have been sitting there in their cars are starting to abandon them.
Yes, we're told from a photographer that's closer to the scene than we are that people have abandoned their vehicles. Again, we are on the southbound lane access road here near Jimmy Carter Boulevard, the exit rather, and was panned to our right where you can see those folks stuck on the highway. People are walking back and forth. At one point, I saw a person on top of their car to get a better view of the flames, and there are people on their phones, and they're basically blocked in, Christy, because there's nowhere to go. We've seen emergency vehicles weave their way towards that accident, and again, as you mentioned, that smoke is still thick and it's still black. You can still see flames roaring from our distance where we're standing right now. I haven't seen any ambulances come through the area of this highway, and again, no word on injuries, but from what we're told, as you mentioned, Christy, that this is a result of a tractor trailer, accident involving a tractor trailer and 2 other vehicles, a tractor trailer and another vehicle overturned. As far as we know, both lanes are shut down. We don't know, we don't have any word of when those lanes will reopen. And again, people, just to give you an idea of this scene, we're on this, there's another fire where I'm just told by our photographer, Stephen Boise, to my left, you see another plume of black smoke that popped up. It just popped up in the middle of our live shot. He tapped me and told me, we don't know if this is related. Again, people are pulling their cars off on the side of the road that are not even on the highway, checking out the flames and the smoke as well. But again, people have been on this highway, northbound lanes, for a while now. You mentioned it before, more than an hour. Can we pan back over there? As I mentioned before, people are standing on top of their cars. People are walking around here on the interstate. The southbound lane is completely shut down here on I-85. But again, we're still trying to figure out where this fire started. It looks like it's right there next to the other fire on 85 that we're originally covering. But again, this story is continuing to develop, and we're still trying to work to find out information. There was talk that there was a gas line that was hit. We don't know that for sure. We have not confirmed that at all. But again, can we pan back to this fire again? There are 2 plumes of smoke, black smoke right now. You can see that fire on the highway roaring. Northbound lanes, southbound lanes are closed. And the best alternate route, if you're thinking about coming this way, if you're watching this right now, we're told is Buford Highway. So again, we're going to be here working to gather more information, trying to figure out what exactly happened here on I-85.
Nick, I was just reading a tweet from Gwinnett County Police. They are indicating that they are trying to evacuate some of the drivers from their cars and even trying to evacuate some of the nearby businesses. From where you can see, can you tell what businesses are in the area that might be evacuated, especially now that this second fire seems to have popped up? We're still working to learn more information about exactly where that is and why. But from what you can see in the area, pretty populated industrial area, what businesses are around there that looks like they might need to evacuate?
So to the left of me, there's a Georgia furniture store. Also behind me, there looks like there's a Ford dealership. There's a couple of other companies. I can't see the signage, but yeah, it's busy over here. This is, if you are familiar with 85 and you come through this stretch near Jimmy Carter Boulevard, there's a lot of businesses. So that makes total sense why they're evacuating this area and why people are abandoning their vehicles. Because we don't know exactly what happened. I'm told from a photographer again, a gas line may be involved, but again, we're still working to confirm that. But again, there's several businesses here along this stretch of I-85.
And Nick, now that the second fire has popped up, obviously we're all wondering what could have caused an inferno of this size, because when we first saw this fire, I mean, it was stunning. Those flames were several feet in the air, and it was blazing quite brightly. So, you know, the flames have come down from that moment when we first saw the fire, but it is still burning actively. Can you tell how many fire trucks and how many crews are on scene trying to contain this?
From my view, about a dozen. I mean, that's from my view. We don't know what's on the other side. We're working to get to that other side. But that second plume of smoke that we noticed during the middle of the live shot a few minutes ago looks like it has subsided. But again, you can still see flames from our distance. You can still see emergency responders. Traffic is backed up. People are standing on their cars, trying to see what happened. Again, this is a heavily traveled road. People come through this road every day. I mean, this is worse than rush hour at 5 o'clock on a weekday, Christy, just to give you a sense of what's going on here. And again, the southbound lane is completely shut down. There are no cars here. And from where we were when we first started noticing the traffic from the Shamley-Tucker exit, you could see the plume of smoke. You could see the traffic back up. I mean, we essentially had to weave our way through here to find we essentially followed the plume of smoke to find our way here to this access road near the southbound lane on I-85, Christy.
All right, Nick, thank you. I know it took a lot of finessing to get to the point where you could see the fire and report all of this for us. Stay safe out there and keep an eye on that second black plume of smoke. We have to take a break real quick, but when we come back, we'll come right back out to you, Nick. Stay with us.
Christy.
Thanks a lot, Wes. Let's head right back out to Gwinnett County, where we are continuing to follow the breaking news. A tractor trailer fire and a car accident that has shut down the entire interstate and caused a massive fire. About an hour ago, the flames were about as high as you can see the smoke right now. So it looks like they are starting to get it under control. But the fire is still burning, and you can see it even clearer from where our reporter Nick Sturdivant is standing. He is just south of this accident, looking back toward it from the other direction of our traffic camera. Nick, describe how the scene has changed since we last saw you.
Hey, Christy, one thing that I noticed just before you tossed to me is that plume of smoke, that black smoke, has dumbed down just a little bit, but you can still see the flames from a distance. About a dozen emergency responders are here near the scene from our side, from our vantage point. There may be more on the other side. And the situation now here on I-85, northbound and southbound, is blocked off. There's no cars southbound, but it's a different situation northbound, where there are cars that have been stuck here for more than an hour. People are right now outside of their cars. We were told that people have been told to evacuate their cars and abandon their cars. And people are just hanging out right now trying to figure out what exactly is going on, just like we are. At one point, we saw people on top of them, and this is unsafe. Please don't do this. People are on top of the median trying to get a better vantage point. People on top of their cars trying to figure out, again, what happened. Christy, you mentioned this before, that they have evacuated some of the nearby businesses, some of the businesses that are by us, Georgia Furniture, which is right beside us. There's also the Ford semi truck dealership. And behind that, where it looks like that second plume of smoke is the OFS plant. And our photographer, Stephen Boise, told me he's been in the area for almost 2 decades. And he told me this is a 90-acre area where that plant is. So I don't know if that plant is directly affected, if it's been evacuated. Again, we're working to gather details. And again, as I mentioned before, people are standing on top of the medians. It's unsafe. And I understand people are trying to get a better viewpoint of this. But again, emergency responders don't need any more on their hands what they're dealing with right now. And again, it's starting to subside a little bit, but there's still a lot of black smoke in the air. The highway shut down, no word on injuries. Again, only thing that we know is that this involves a tractor trailer, 2 vehicles, a tractor trailer and a vehicle overturned. There was word of possibly a gas line involved. Again, we're still working to get that confirmed. A photographer on the scene has told us that Police have told people to be mindful of the manhole covers and different things on the ground, trying to keep people safe here.
Yeah.
And I'm getting in my ear now from our producer back in the booth that one confirmed fatality in this accident. So again, this is still a developing story, Christy.
Yeah, and that fire was truly stunning the last time we saw it when it first started about an hour and a half ago. And Nick, the last time, this is video from when the fire first started. You can see those flames several feet up in the air, 3 huge plumes of black smoke as people are abandoning their cars on the highway, jumping over the concrete median to evacuate, and just leaving their cars on I-85. Both sides of the interstate were shut down, and it is still an active scene. As Nick said, about a dozen different fire trucks are there trying to contain this fire. But look at those flames. We're all wondering at this point what caused such bright and such a serious fire between a tractor trailer and 2 vehicles. We had a chance to speak with a couple witnesses who were there on the scene. Let's take a listen.
To be honest with you, it looked like a fuel truck exploded. About 15 or 16 different explosions. Not sure if that was fuel tanks, tires, what that exactly was. But then it's believed to be a fuel truck. Again, it looked like fuel was dumping into the storm drains. The storm drains did start exploding next to us, flames shooting out, grates lifting up. And so they did pull us back pretty quick.
And that would explain why the first responders and police were telling people to be wary of the manhole covers, especially if that is true, if this was a fuel truck. We're working with Gwinnett County Police and DOT to figure out and confirm all of this information. But if it was a fuel truck, that makes sense because those flames were so bright. Let's go back out to Nick Sturdivant, who is live on the scene. Nick, last time we saw you about 5 to 10 minutes ago, there was a second black plume of smoke just to the left of the original car fire on the interstate. It looks, from what I can see, that it has gone away, but what can you see there on scene? It looks like maybe he can't hear us, but based on that video, it looks like that second fire is at least out at this point. A tweet from Gwinnett County Police says that they are currently evacuating people in their cars and even in the nearby businesses. At this point, people have been sitting in their cars for at least an hour. Both sides of the interstate are completely shut down, and because of those concrete medians and the concrete barriers on the side, there's no way for them to exit the interstate. They are essentially blocked in on both sides. So people are abandoning their cars. The ones who have stayed are trying to get a better look at the fire, standing on top of their cars and on top of the median. Of course, the best thing to do right now is just let first responders do their job. I think we have Nick again. Let's go back out to the scene. Nick, I still want to ask you, the last time we spoke to you about 10 minutes ago, there was that second black plume of smoke just to the left. From what we can see, it looks like it has gone away and been contained, but what can you see there on scene?
Yeah, Christy, within a matter of our initial live shot, it popped up out of nowhere, and it seems like it's disappeared, and firefighters have it under control. Right now, it looks like a lot of the focus is on that first plume of black smoke, which has subsided since we got here just before 9 o'clock. You still see flames. You still see a ton of emergency crews. There's still emergency crews trying to get to the scene. There's one coming on its way now from an access road northbound. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. And there's still emergency crews that are kind of weaving their way through the northbound lanes. And again, people have been out here. They're talking with other drivers and passengers on the northbound lanes. They're just stuck here. They're boxed in, basically. You can hear police. There's a police car coming, Norcross police coming on this access road that we're on closest to the southbound lane. And you mentioned before, Christy, that emergency responders are evacuating some of the nearby businesses. Beside me is Georgia Furniture. Back in the distance, that tan building that peeks through the trees is the OFS plant, which is a 90-acre plant from what I'm told. There's also in front of it a Ford semi-truck dealership. and there are people in the parking lot areas, again, trying to figure out what happened. We're trying to figure out exactly what happened. We're told that there possibly was a gas line involved. Again, we're working to get that confirmed. We just talked with the PIO from the fire department, and he told us that we should get updates in the next few minutes. So we're going to work our way around to talk with firefighters to get more information, Christy.
Yeah, one of the witnesses saying it was a fuel tanker. They also heard explosions as the fuel was spilling into the storm drains. Nick, have you heard anything like an explosion where you are?
We haven't heard anything, Christy, at all. We haven't heard anything as far as an explosion. All we've seen is black smoke, flames, and people stuck on the highway, essentially.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nick. At this point, one confirmed fatality. We're going to take a break and then we'll come right back. Stay with us. We're going to take another look at this breaking news that we've been following all morning long. A massive fire on I-85 has brought the interstate to a halt. A tractor-trailer crash with 2 other vehicles involved has caused an inferno on the interstate. Now, you can see first responders there, still an active scene on the left side of your screen. Those trucks are moving, trying to get that fire under control, also trying to evacuate the drivers in certain businesses in the area as they work to get this cleaned up and under control. We have a live reporter, Nick Sturdivant, who is just south of the accident. You're off on an access road, Nick. Describe where you are compared to the accident and what you're seeing now.
Hey, Christy, yeah, we're on the access road closest to the southbound lane here on I-85. Again, just south of the Jimmy Carter Boulevard exit. And right now, it's still the same. You know, people are stuck here on the highway. People are outside of their cars. Again, people are on top of the median. Not right now, but right before our live shot, there are people on top of the median trying to get a better shot, people on top of their cars. And if you're familiar with this area of 85, there are businesses along this stretch. There's a Georgia Furniture right beside me. There's a Ford dealership behind me, and there's another plant further back, which is closest to that fire. And as you mentioned, Christy, emergency responders have evacuated nearby businesses. They're asking people to abandon their vehicles. And even on this access road, people that are not on 85 and stuck on 85 have pulled off just to get a view of what's going on. We talked about it in the newsroom minutes before I left to head out here, that we've never seen anything like this on 85 to this magnitude. You see the black smoke is starting to subside at one point. I mean, you can see plumes of smoke miles away. When we first started seeing backups, we were near the Shamley-Tucker exit, which is 5 miles south. And we basically had to finesse and weave our way through access roads and Buford Highway, which is what we're told is the best alternate route to take to get to this point. And we're going to try to make our way closer and try to get updates. One update that we do have, there's one fatality in this accident, and all we know right now is that this accident involves a tractor trailer, 2 other vehicles. That tractor trailer was overturned, that vehicle was overturned, and again, one fatality in this accident. We're told from a photographer closest to the scene, this may involve a gas line. Again, we're waiting for confirmation on that right there. But again, we're working with firefighters to get more information on what exactly happened. We're going to make our way closer to the scene as soon as we wrap up here.
Okay, Nick, be safe as you get closer to the scene. Now, one quick update for you. We have been told that the business evacuations are happening at businesses off of Dawson Boulevard and Crescent Drive. First responders also trying to evacuate some of the drivers who are stuck there on the interstate. They can't move, some of them even abandoning their cars. So if you are anywhere near that, try and avoid that area. We've got Jerry Carnes here live in studio with us to help you navigate around this area because, Jerry, the accident is right between Pleasantdale and Jimmy Carter Boulevard on I-85. So if people are trying to avoid this altogether, Which routes do they take?
Well, this is it's just a mess no matter what route you take.
It is, and those poor people sitting there completely blocked in. At this point, it's probably best just to turn off the car, conserve gas, because we do not know how long this is going to last before they open up the interstate. But one notable thing, you can see there that smoke turning from its black, dark color to a white color there, which looks like and indicates that they might have gotten some water on it or whatever material they used to get those flames under control, depending on what started this fire. Unfortunately, we have confirmed one fatality in this accident that involved a tractor trailer and 2 vehicles. We're still working to learn the details of what led up to it and how they collided. But we talked to a witness on scene who said they heard about 15 explosions. So still a lot to learn here, but let's take a look back. So this is what the scene looks like now. Let's look back at what it looked like when we first started reporting on this about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours ago now. Those flames, at least based on the video, looks 20 to 30 feet up in the air, several plumes of thick black smoke and people scrambling out of their cars, climbing over the concrete median, many of them just abandoning their cars on the interstate as this inferno continued to burn on I-85 northbound. You could hear the sirens. Our reporter on scene said at one point at least a dozen different fire trucks and first responder vehicles were there on the scene trying to contain this fire. But look at those flames. That is burning incredibly brightly. And it looks there that by the look of that video, that tractor trailer is on its side. We are told that it was overturned along with potentially one of those other vehicles that was involved. So let's go back live to the scene now. So that's what it looked like about an hour and a half ago. This is what it looks like now. Obviously a little calmer scene. The smoke now turned a white color as they get those flames under control, but the interstate is still shut down both directions. Again, if you're just joining us, this is at I-85. The fire itself and the crash is on the northbound side. That's on the left side of your screen. But the southbound side, which is on the right side, still shut down too. No movement in either direction. And the people who are there caught in their cars, first responders are trying to help them evacuate from their cars, even evacuating some of the businesses in nearby areas. But at this point, there's really no way for them to get out of this situation. So as we've been on scene, bringing you this continuous coverage, we've had a chance to talk to some of the witnesses who are there on scene, seeing this firsthand. Let's take a listen to what they have to say.
Some people even started turning their cars around to go the opposite way on 85, almost like a stampede. In fact, a lot of cops had to bum rush them because pedestrians were almost getting hit, and so they had to actually put a stop to that pretty quick. So if you ever get an aerial in the near future, I'm sure you'll see a lot of forward-facing cars and rear-facing cars at this point.
Yeah, that witness there describing a chaotic situation, people trying to turn around on the interstate. Our live reporter at the scene, Nick Sturdivant, saying he has watched people jump over the concrete median, abandon their cars altogether. It's been almost 2 hours that many of them have been sitting there on the interstate. Nick Sturdivant is just south of this accident on an access road to the side of I-85. Nick, the smoke has changed color and it looks like it's starting to get under control. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same, Christy. That plume of black smoke earlier has turned into a plume of white smoke, which appears that firefighters now have this fire under control. At one point when we got here, I could see flames from the distance. Again, that plume of black smoke you could see several miles away. And as you mentioned earlier before you tossed to me, Christy, people are stuck essentially here on the northbound lane. People are on top of their cars. At one point, people were on top of the medians. A lot of people are out of their cars, and emergency responders have told people to evacuate their cars closest to the scene, and they've told businesses to evacuate. We did notice a few minutes ago that it appeared that a Georgia Power crew cut the power line here in this area. Where we are now, beside me, is the Georgia Furniture Building. There's also a Ford semi-truck dealership. There is a OFS plant, which is about a 90-acre plant, which is directly across the street from that fire where that happened. But again, that plume of black smoke has now turned into a plume of white smoke, and it looks like everything is under control, and we're working to gather more details. We spoke with the PIO in between our live hits, and he told us that they were working to get more details and give it to us so we can pass that along both on air and online. Christy?
Yeah, still a lot to learn, and unfortunately we have confirmed one fatality in this situation, but we will bring you continuous coverage throughout the morning as we work to learn more about this crash and this fire that has brought I-85 to a halt. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're continuing our coverage of a breaking car fire, tractor trailer fire that has completely shut down I-85 in both directions. Now, the actual accident and fire happened on the northbound side, but the southbound side is brought to a halt as well. So the best thing you can do if you are headed out this morning is to avoid that area completely. We've got Jerry Carnes standing by to help you detour around the interstate this morning. Jerry.
Well, Christy.
Yeah, no doubt this will cause a domino effect of traffic backups throughout the metro, so just be patient this morning as the first responders work tirelessly to get all of this cleaned up. And remember that the important thing this morning, we have confirmed one person has died in this accident, so that helps put some things into perspective. Now, we want to take you back out live to the scene where Nick Sturdivant is on an access road just south of this accident. The scene has changed a lot since we first came to you, Nick. The fire was spreading almost across all 4 to 6 lanes of the northbound side of the interstate when it was burning at its brightest, but now you can barely see the smoke. It looks like they've really gotten it under control.
Yeah, Christy, it appears that the fire is out, and drivers who were stuck on that northbound lane that we've been talking about since we've been on air are starting to get some relief. Officers are now diverting traffic from the northbound lane to get people off of people off of the highway, and their trucks are still on the highway, but it looks like they're focusing on the vehicles right now. And again, we've seen the evolution of this scene since we got here, where at one point there were flames on the highway and the thick plumes of black smoke to white smoke to now there's no smoke. And as we see it right now, the southbound lanes are back open. As I speak, the southbound lanes here near the Jimmy Carter Boulevard exit are back open. Officers are diverting traffic from that northbound lane, and people on that northbound lane were stuck for almost 2 hours, Christy. And at one point, we did notice a Georgia Power crew member. It appears that he was cutting off power in the area. And again, this accident involving a tractor trailer, 2 vehicles, that tractor trailer and the other vehicle were overturned. Again, we're hearing a gas line was involved. We're still waiting to confirm that information, but good news for drivers. They're finding some relief. The southbound lanes are now open, and traffic on that northbound lane is starting to be diverted, so folks can get off this road and they're not stuck here for another hour or so.
It's always good news when you see traffic start flowing again. That is the southbound lanes. I have a feeling it will still take quite a while before the northbound lanes get going again, because Jerry was right. Even though they have the fire out, they still have to upright that tractor trailer and then clean it up and move it to the side so they can at least get those cars around. It's still a stunning look from what we saw at Nick's live shot. A lot of those cars on the northbound side going the wrong direction, turned around southbound as they are trying to find a way off the interstate. First responders are trying to evacuate some of those drivers and businesses in the area, specifically on Dawson Boulevard and Crescent Drive. But silver lining, if anything, here, it looks like they have gotten the fire under control. But let's take a look at what it looked like about 2 hours ago when this fire was burning at its brightest. The flames were spanning across almost the entire 4 to 6 lanes of the interstate, right between Jimmy Carter Boulevard and Pleasantdale. Those people scrambling out of their cars, jumping over the concrete median to get away. Some of the witnesses telling us that they heard several explosions in the area too. Now, obviously, obviously this fire burning so bright and so tall, based on the video looking like it was up 20 to 30 feet in the air, there are a lot of questions about what caused this. Right now, Gwinnett police telling us that the fire is the result of the traffic accident, which included the tractor trailer and at least 2 vehicles, but a lot of people wondering if there was some sort of fuel tanker involved here. We're working and talking to first responders, police, DOT, fire POs to try and confirm that information. But right now, obviously, their mind is focused on cleaning up the scene, getting the fire under control, making sure people are safe. And we did have a sad update. We were able to confirm that 1 person died from this car fire. So this is what it looks like now. This is a live look based on our traffic camera. That smoke, much smaller, much more contained, also now white instead of that thick black smoke we were seeing earlier this morning. All lanes are still blocked on the northbound side, but those southbound lanes, it looks like at least those people that were stuck there have started moving again, and we're looking at a line of cars looking like they're coming onto the interstate that are moving quite slowly. Still not a lot of cars coming from above that, and it's still going to take a while before they open this interstate back up. GDOT not willing to give us a time estimate, obviously, but you can guess this is going to take some time. So again, to recap for you, this is the crash on I-85 northbound between Pleasantdale and Jimmy Carter Boulevard that has brought the entire interstate to a stop. 1 person confirmed dead in this accident. We'll continue following this throughout the morning, but first we have to take a break, so stay with us.